Hey everybody! Just a quick reminder, these stories aren't always public perfect conversation. I do use a lot of strong language in here, and I talk about some things that aren't always necessarily pleasant to hear. But I hope you still enjoy it. Also, please don't forget to check me out on everywhere you can find music and other podcasts. Mostly, follow me on Patreon. For just $1 a month, you can get ad-free content, 24 hours early access to episodes, and for $3 a month, you get the options of having community chats with me and some of the other fans. For $5 a month, you get voting powers on any changes I want to run through the fans. You also get priority requests and suggestions, live Q&As, community chats, one-on-one chats with me personally, either through messages or through calls, and maybe we can even set up a time to be a guest on the show. And of course, that's in addition to everything from the lower tiers. I'm planning on doing more with the community as it grows. With that being said, let's get into the episode. Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Stories from Behind the Counter, and as always, I'm your host, Alpha. Thank you again for coming back and listening to another crazy episode of some wonderful insanity that we deal with in public-facing jobs. I've got some great stuff for you today, but first, as always, we need to get the ads out of the way. First up, we have Aspire Energy Drinks. It's the green tea-based energy drinks. It doesn't have all the sugar, it doesn't have all the crap, and it doesn't have the 200 milligrams of caffeine that most other things do. So you're not getting cracked out, you don't have the jitters, you don't have the sugar crash. I just find it a lot cleaner energy, a lot better all around. I enjoy them. Use my promo code SFBTC, pretty much Stories from Behind the Counter. You take the letter from each of those words, put it together, that's the promo code. You get 20% off, you save some money, I get a small kickback. We all know how the ads work. Secondly, we also have PrepStartsNow.com. Same promo code, you get 15% off, and these are the guys that you go to for all of your camping and survival emergency needs. They've got dehydrated food, they've got tents, backpacks, little camping stoves, all sorts of stuff. Whatever you think you might need or want for your camping and outdoorsy desires, or for the chance that an emergency might happen, this is your place to start. They've got some good deals as it is. Plus, like I said, use my promo code, you get 15% off. And by the way, these promo codes for both of these places are not just one-time promo codes. You can use them as many times as you'd like, and it's for any purchase, no matter how big or small. But these are awesome companies to support, and I would not be pushing them if I did not trust them or like them and already check them out and try them myself. So I hope you check them out, and I hope you like them. If you do, keep on using those promo codes. It helps everybody out. Them, you, me, helps us all. That being said, let's go ahead and get into the episode. Alright, this first story is from a coworker of mine. He told me this story. So he actually worked at a big retail place at this time, and he was actually on a day off. You know how it is. Nobody really wants to come in on their day off, even if it's just to shop. But necessity is necessity. So he goes in, he's already kind of dreading it, but luckily enough, it goes kind of smooth. He grabs whatever he needs, gets out, and when he's leaving is when all hell is breaking loose. Apparently, someone is running from the cops. And of course, they decided to run to this particular store for whatever reason. Maybe the guy thought super easy to blend into a big old crowd in a big parking lot or something. I don't know. But he's not running fast enough, apparently. The cops have the entire property surrounded. The entire property. Well, they still don't have him tracked down too horribly well. They just know he is on the store's property, somewhere in this parking lot, possibly even in the store, and they're trying not to panic anybody. Trying not to make a big scene, just trying to get him caught. Well, my coworker just kind of looked over. He's looking at all the chaos, and then he sees this guy just dive straight under this van. Well, that didn't end very well for him. My coworker kind of pointed toward the van. One of the cops saw, and they all converged on the van. They ended up pulling this guy out by his ankle, and they just completely dogpiled this guy. Now, honestly, at this point, I live in the desert, and this particular store has a very big dirt field next to it. And it's the middle of the summer. As unlucky as this guy is for getting drug out from underneath a van vault, getting dogpiled, good chance he probably still got tased, maybe. He's actually super lucky. If he's not from around here, he didn't take into consideration the fact that he could be diving under with a bunch of scorpions or a rattlesnake that's trying to escape the heat. And those things are pretty deadly. But he got lucky. They took him into custody. He didn't die. So, moving on to the next story, someone wrote into the show. I'm going to call him Lion. Lion is in law enforcement, and one day he gets a call that he needs to head somewhere for a bad accident. It's a bit of a long drive and a lot of nothing in between where he is now and where he needs to go. But he's flying down the highway with his lights on, sirens blaring. Whatever few people are on the highway, they're pulling over, letting him by. Except for this one guy. This one guy just punches the gas, makes a crazy maneuver, rips off the highway into an empty desert field. Lion said he was already on a call where people absolutely needed immediate help, so it was really this guy's lucky day. And he just kept going toward the accident. Personally, I'm wondering what that guy did where he felt like he had to do a maneuver like that and just drive out into the middle of the desert. He's super lucky there was something that was essentially more pressing than trying to figure out who he was. Whoever he was, again, he got super lucky. Gonna move on to the next story. This one is an interesting one. So this is about a kid who made a very bad decision while at work. This is a story from my own memory. I was there and got to hear about it right after it happened. I was working for a real big retail place, one of our favorite places in the world, everywhere in the US, and I was working overnights. There's this one kid that we've been having a lot of issues with. When we do see him on the sales floor, he's stalking, but he's very, very slow. But a good portion of the time, we can't even find him in any of the departments. No matter where he's scheduled, no matter where we put him, it's just not where he wants to be, apparently. Sometimes we can't find him at all anywhere in the store. You know, a lot of times we're expecting young kid, especially overnight. He's going to try and find another department, maybe flirting with somebody, trying to quote unquote help them out, or something stupid like that. Not the first time, sure it won't be the last, but that's not the case here. We start wondering if he's going out to his car or something. Well, one night we hit our lunch break. Pretty much everyone in the store hits their lunch around the same time. Since we don't have any customers shopping, we don't have to worry about having sales floor coverage to help everyone and blah blah blah. Everyone more or less takes their breaks together. It helps the MOD so that all he has to do is worry about one line of associates. Everyone eats together, takes their break, and then everyone's back at work. Boom, boom, nice and smooth. We get all the associates through the registers. The MOD is waiting around to see if anyone else pops up. They don't, so he closes the register and starts walking away. Then all of a sudden he starts hearing weird noise coming out of one of the restrooms next to the register. Sounds like someone's choking on something maybe, but it's super quiet. So he goes in, check it out, see what's going on. As he's walking in there, he doesn't see anyone in there. He tries to look under the stall. He doesn't see any feet. And the noise seems to have stopped as he walked in. Whatever, right? He starts walking away. He double checks the till that he was using to make sure that he logged out, and he turns around to walk outside and smoke when, lo and behold, guess who's sneaking out from the same restroom the MOD was just in? Problem child. The guy we can never find. And tonight, we haven't seen him for at least 2 hours. The MOD sees a bright red circle on this kid's face, but just on one side. Before the MOD jumps to conclusions, as obvious as things might have seemed to him, he's got to go to the camera and make sure. It takes him a little bit, but eventually he sees that during first break, the kid goes into the restroom by the registers while everyone is buying their stuff, going outside, etc., etc., etc. The MOD keeps watching and keeps watching and keeps watching. He sees everyone hitting their lunch, and he sees himself go into the restroom and come out. And then he sees the kid come out. The MOD realizes that he just completely busted this kid. Only thing he could think of is that the kid went into the restroom and fell asleep and maybe woke up when the MOD walked in, and he lifted his legs so the MOD couldn't see him. Thought he was being sneaky, tried to sneak out shortly after the MOD walked out, thinking he was long gone, but he wasn't. Which would explain why we hadn't seen him in 2 hours and why he had a giant red circle on his face. Probably fell asleep and held himself up with his fist or something. Don't know how he didn't fall over at any point. But that does essentially explain everything. He sends the kid home on suspension, and AP looks more into it with him, and they see that he's been doing this for a while. He'll go in to work, and he works for a little bit. Then he'll go and take a nap on his break. Sometimes 30 minutes, sometimes more. So they collect all this together, call the kid in, have him try to explain himself, and he denies everything until they show him the evidence they have against him. To which the kid got quiet and accepted his termination, because he knew he'd been completely busted. Personally, I'm surprised it took so long to catch him, but I'm sure there was reasons. It is what it is. I'm just glad they finally caught him, and I'm glad I got to be there the night that he was walked out on suspension, because he was a thorn in my side along with everyone else's side. Anyway, moving on. We got another story from Sunshine. Quick reminder for anyone who doesn't remember Sunshine or are just joining us, Sunshine works at a scrapyard. He's written in before. This time, Sunshine says, "So today I had a customer that I didn't know how to really deal with. But I just tried to let my humanity take over and not get mad at this guy. I had a customer come in. He's a regular. He's a little older, and he's usually pretty cool. He comes in, chats a bit, never causes trouble, and he goes on his way. Seems like he scraps pretty much for a living. But other than that, he's a very nice person. And like I said, he doesn't cause any problems. Well, today, he came in. He just kind of threw his stuff on the scale, and I greeted him like I always do, asking, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" And he says, "Not too good." He asks if he could fill up an empty bucket with water, and I respond with, "Sure." It's a little unusual for him, but you know what? Again, he doesn't cause trouble, no big deal. I'm gonna let him fill up his bucket with some water, whatever he needs it for. I do the math for what I owe him, move his stuff off the scale, get his money ready for him, and he gets done filling up his bucket. I tell him how much everything was, and he takes the money, he grumbles, and he kind of walks off. But he's not heading toward his car. He's heading out to my yard, around the building, with this random bucket of water. As I'm questioning what's going on, I start to notice that there is a small trail of literal shit dripping down his leg, and he's leaving a trail behind him. That's when I look into the room where he was just filling said bucket, and there is a small mess. Luckily, not a lot, but a small mess is there, and my coworker comes up and pretty much yells, Oh my god, there's human shit everywhere. There's a full pile of human shit out front. What the hell, boss? I just turned and I respond with, please stop shouting. I can see it. We don't need to draw a bunch of attention to it, please. Just grab a shovel, throw some dirt over it, and clean it up. I just can't help but feel bad. I don't know if this guy was just feeling sick that day and didn't realize how bad it was until it was just too late. Or maybe he was just getting to that age where he should be wearing some extra help when he's out in public or something. I don't know. But I instructed my coworker to ignore the situation and just move on. The poor guy was probably embarrassed enough. Next day, the gentleman did come in, and no one said anything about it. He said he was having a slightly better day, and that's all we left it at. This is me speaking as Alpha. Well, that's definitely a lot nicer than I would have been just out of sheer shock value. I probably would have been like your coworker. That's one of my biggest pet peeves in all the jobs I've dealt with. I've pretty much dealt with a shit situation from the get-go. A situation, if you will. Every career gets it, pretty much, apparently. Definitely would not have expected it at a junkyard, but I guess accidents happen when nature calls, no matter how much control you have over the situation. I think we've all had an embarrassing moment, whether we were sick or got food poisoning or whatever it is. We've all had a, forgive the pun, oh shit moment. So, you're awesome, Sunshine. Thank you for remembering to be a human about it. I think that's something a lot of us, including myself, sometimes struggles with, is remembering we're all human and stuff happens. But when it gets excessive, it gets excessive. Anyway, moving on. Next up, this is a story from me and one of my coworkers because we were both slightly involved. I just did not realize how bad it was going to get until he told me. So, there was one day I'm working up at the service desk, and the service desk is essentially also the operator station at this company. I answer the phone, and the customer wants to know if we have a specific item in stock. I transfer him off to the correct department, and I figure I'm pretty much done with the call. About 30 minutes later, the associate that I transferred the call to comes up and asks if I can try and help him find the phone number because they had got disconnected. But he did find the item that the customer needed. I said, sure. I looked it up, I gave him the phone number, and he called the customer back. Whoever answered the phone responded with, oh, yeah, you guys got disconnected because he died while he was talking to you. I gotta go. What else can you say at this point? He's not sure if it's a joke or not, and he just kind of responded flatly with, well, I'm sorry to hear that. I still have that item in stock if you guys need it. And he hung up. If I wasn't standing next to him when he said that, and he explained more, I probably would not have believed it. But this one was just insane. Anywho, this next story, this is from BW. BW has written in before, and he is an ASM at a big retail place. One day, a couple comes in trying to buy about $3,000 worth of stuff, including an install for their product. No problem. He absolutely wants this sale. No matter where you work, unless it's like a new car lot, where you're selling BMWs and stuff like that, a $3,000 sale in one shot is awesome. The customers say that they want to pay $300 in cash, and the rest is going to be on their card. No problem. We can do that super easy. So he inputs $300 cash, which brings the total down. And he says, okay, go ahead and run your card. So they run their card without looking, without paying attention. And she pulls out a second card, says, "All right, I'm ready to run my actual card now." To which BW and the other associate working with him look at each other, very confused. The other associate says, "I'm sorry, it's already been run through. You said you were doing $300 cash and the rest was on card. So we ran the cash, then we ran your card. Where's the cash?" This is where the customer looks at him, very confused. She looks at him dead in the eye, waving her card in her hand, saying, "Yeah, you just ran my cash," while holding up her debit card. "Now you need to run my credit card. Why don't you understand?" To which BW and the other associate try to connect the dots in their head and ask to make sure they're understanding her thought process. "So you wanted to use debit, not cash, although you kept saying cash." To which the customer responded, "That is cash. Who carries paper money on them these days?" I can hear a lot of people facepalming themselves now if you haven't already been doing it. These people, honestly, were shocked and shook at the fact that people still carry paper money and actual coinage on them. And so there is a difference between cash and debit card. But after we taught them that, we came to the realization, oh shit, we have less than 10 minutes to completely refund this and stop the install that we just set up before it hits the installer's system. We have to now recreate this entire order for all of this product and redo an install. Luckily enough, it's not the first time this has happened, and the associate that was working with BW apparently knew how to handle it. BW just could not fathom the fact that they didn't realize there was a difference between debit and cash. And to be perfectly honest, I can't either. The saddest part was they weren't young teens, they weren't brand new 21-year-olds. They looked like they were in their 30s or 40s. They were well within millennial to possibly even Gen X generation. And they didn't understand that people still carry real cash and there's a difference between cash and debit. I don't want to necessarily say I give up on this planet and people in general, but it's getting a lot more difficult to believe in the human race sometimes. Especially when they do stuff like this. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and move on to our last story and we'll call it a day. Another fan of the show wrote in telling me about an experience they had, and she wants me to tell it from her first person point of view, which is the way it usually sticks in my mind and is easiest to tell anyway. As you can tell, I tend to do that already, even when it seems like I start out in third person. I just always tend to group myself in there, like I get immersed into the story. If you don't like it, oh well, that's how I tell my stories though. She starts out saying, "I work at a big retail place. One day a customer puts in an online order and they want it delivered express. And what I mean by express is they want it delivered same day as quick as possible, so that's usually done by something along the lines of Uber, Roadie, DoorDash, Spark, etc. One of those types of companies. They can do the same day deliveries usually, otherwise it takes a little bit longer, minimum 24 hours, and most people want their stuff same day. So the store picks all the items. Nothing crazy, just a box and some other small stuff. The driver picks up the order, leaves, and as far as we're aware, it's done. Well, apparently not. The customer calls us shortly after and demands to know where her box is. Her box was not delivered. She got everything but the box, and she has cameras everywhere on her porch, so she knows that he just didn't deliver the box. So of course, I look into the order. It says everything is completed out, but there is no box in the delivery pictures that the driver needs to take. I look at the notes, I see who grabbed it, which company it was and which driver it was. I called the driver, and the driver proceeds to tell me that he couldn't fit the box into his car, so he just left it in the cart corral. And he decided he didn't need to tell anybody, much less that the customer actually needed it, apparently. So I went out, I found the box, and luckily hadn't been stolen or blown away or anything. It's still in good condition, so I talked to my MOD and asked if I could just add like 10 minutes to my time punch and I'll just deliver it on my way home. The address is literally on my way anyway. I got approval for that and I go to deliver it. I pull up to the house. It's a nice little house, but I could see the camera she was talking about. There are also beware of dog signs, no trespassing signs, and even a sign that says trespassers will be shot. But I know she's going to be expecting me. We talked about it. I told her at what time I was going to be there, and I even tried calling her as I was getting close, but she didn't answer. No big deal. I'm just setting this box over this little gate by her door, and it's got a perfect little spot where it shouldn't blow away. So I walk up, I set the box over the gate, and I instantly hear dogs going insane and gunshots ringing out. Apparently, the customer had a speaker system set up to play sounds of attack dogs and gunfire to try and scare off any would-be burglars. Either way, we haven't heard back from her, so I assume she got her box. This is me speaking as Alpha again. That driver needs to be reported to whichever one of these companies hired him. That's not how delivery companies should act. And if you can't take the stuff, you just bring it all back to the store and tell them, hey, I can't take it. You don't just have lack of communication. You figure it out. What the fuck? It's always been an interesting level of laziness in my eyes. What they think they can do and get away with. Talk about doing half of the work, huh? But good on you. I'm glad that you got it delivered and got her taken care of. I'm not going to lie, the first couple of times I tried reading that, it kept making me laugh, and I got to the part with the speaker playing attack dogs and the gunfire. I don't know how I'd react to all of that myself. If that were me, I would probably freak out, especially since I'm used to carrying a gun on me. But, hey, it is what it is. That being said, I think we're going to go ahead and call this an episode. Thanks again for listening, guys. As always, I appreciate everyone who's been listening, and especially those who've been sending me their stories. Again, whatever I call you on the show is all you will ever be known as. And of course, I want to give a big shout out to Denise Esparza from Nisi Art on Instagram. She's the one who's responsible for the thumbnails that you guys see when I upload my episodes. Check her out on Instagram if you want to see what else she can do. I want to give a shout out to Nivation as well for the intro and the outro music that's provided for the show. You can find Nivation on Spotify and on Facebook. Nivation, Denise, you guys are awesome, and I appreciate both of you for helping me keep this going. With all that being said, this is Alpha signing off. Stay fabulous, everyone.